Okay, so to start with, we'll go through the agenda. I'll be handing over in a moment to Liz Flint and Colm Watling to take the main part of the session on what is innovation funding. They'll be covering types of innovation funding, Innovate UK, why you should apply, and also when to apply. And then I'll be then talking about the Innovation Grant Mentoring Project, and we'll be also giving examples of businesses we've supported in that session as well. And then we'll be moving on to take any questions you might have around the webinar, whether it's on Colm and Liz's topics, or whether it's about the Innovation Grant Mentoring Project. If you could please add your comments and questions into the Q&A bar throughout the session, we'll then pick all those up at the end and go through each of those questions. And if we don't have time to cover them all, we'll get back to you after today's session. Okay, so now I'd like to introduce you to Liz and Colm. They are mentors on our project and experts in the field of innovation, and they've got lots to share with you around innovation funding. As we just start this session off, we've got a question for you all on the call today. So we've got a poll. If that poll could be launched, please, Jeff. So have you ever applied for innovation funding? If you could just click yes or no, and then I'll hand over to Liz and Colm, who'll take you through the next part of this webinar. Thank you.
So what we're trying to do here is see not just how many people have had a crack at this, but how many of you managed to get some money out of the system. So we got 23, so we had 39 have tried, 39% have tried, and of them, where are we now? Can you see the poll there, Liz? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's about 2/3 unsuccessful, 1/3 successful of those who have applied.
Yeah.
Which is not bad, actually.
Which is, you know, actually that beats the actual a lot of the running, doesn't it? Right. So without further ado, let me share my slides if we can get the technology to work properly, which it was earlier. So let's find that. There we go. Are we all in the right room? Can we all see my slides? Brilliant. Okay, so my name's Colm Watling. I'm joined by my colleague Liz Flint. Liz's name is pretty easy to pronounce and spell. Mine isn't, but I stopped correcting people a very, very long time ago. So don't worry about that. Between us, Liz and I have racked up, I don't know how many years of applying for grants, helping other people to apply for grants, adjudicating grants, helping people to find other sources of funding, crowdfunding, equity, all that kind of stuff. We've been in the innovation game, if you like, for quite a long time. So what we're going to pass on to you today is some pretty good hints and tips, a way of looking at the whole problem, because one of the hints and tips is don't start applying for every pot of money you can find. That's a good tip. Don't do that. And then we're going to get into some of the actual nuts and bolts, particularly with regard to Innovate UK, who are the, if you like, the big beast in this area. I don't mean your geographical area because they work nationally, but in terms of getting money for technology companies to develop new products, services and processes, Innovate UK should be firmly on your radar. They're the government's innovation agency, and they are tasked with dragging the United Kingdom's innovation system into a place where business spends 2.4% of its own money, its own turnover, on research and development. That's the sort of gold standard we're aiming for. A lot of countries do a bit more than that. We'll talk about that a bit later on, but the UK has historically lagged in investment in research and development. R&D tax credits will feature in the presentation, so that's one mechanism that the government uses. I didn't see anything in the autumn statement specifically relating to innovation, but I did see the 100% write-off for all in-year spending on plant and machinery and technology, so that's a very good thing. Good, right, so I'll cover that one. The Innovation and Grant Mentoring Programme, we've been working with Laura and her colleagues for a couple of years now, I think it is. We've had some major successes. We'll talk about those a little bit later on as well. But as I say, we both teach at a variety of different universities. We both help a variety of clients. We do a lot of work for Innovate UK, as well as trying to get people into the Innovate UK system. So when you ask the question what people think innovation is, this is just one example. It's a word cloud from that we picked off the internet somewhere, and you'll recognize a load of those different words in there. Okay, so there's a lot of different aspects, a lot of different ways of considering innovation. It's a word that gets bandied about too much in my view, and people start confusing it with invention, they start confusing it with commercialization, they start getting all excited about intellectual property and all these kinds of things. And that's not really what innovation is, the way I think about it, the way I've been taught to think about it. If you go and look for a dictionary definition, it gets really quite even more confusing, okay? Because there's standards about it and ISO standards and things like that. And I'm not really sure what a new or changed entity realizing or redistributing value means. I'm going to say my English is not good enough to really understand what the author of that sentence is trying to get across. So this is the way I always try and get it across. So invention is when you get a load of money and you turn it into a bunch of ideas. Okay, that's what a university does if you think about it. A university employs an awful lot of clever people, and they're well funded by the taxpayer to come up with new stuff, novel, groundbreaking, clever, publishable results that are advancing the cause of human knowledge. Okay, so they're a great thing. We need them. We work with them. Innovate UK is very keen to broker relationships between business and university, but they turn money into ideas. And that's not what innovation is. What innovation is about taking ideas and turning it into money. Okay, so it's all about successful commercialization. So every single thing we talk about in this presentation is how do you get through this ideation stage and into practical reality and goods and services. Okay, so what's missing from this definition then of turning money into ideas? What's missing in the invention piece? Okay, there's some other stuff on the right hand side in that diagram I won't read out, but in invention, you're not trying to sell anything to anyone. You're sitting in a laboratory and you're coming up with clever stuff. But you're never trying to take that to the market and say, where does this fit? What is this worth? How does this fit into existing supply chains? What are customers already doing to solve this particular problem? Where does my invention fit? We're not doing that. But innovation, you are all the time. There's a statistic which we pulled from Strategizer, which is an American system, if you like, for innovation. They publish a lot of stuff on the internet. They came up with business model canvases. They came up with value proposition design, all that kind of stuff. So Strategizer was a really good source for some good innovation processes. And they have a statistic that, if I can remember it correctly, that 9 out of 10 inventions or new product launches don't work. And most of the time they don't work is because no one ever spoke to a customer. Or if they did speak to a customer, they didn't speak to them early enough and they didn't ask the right questions. So the business that was launching this new product was absolutely convinced that it had a new thing that had value that customers would want. And when they launched it, it didn't work. And Strategizer's theory suggests that that's product market fit wasn't correct. And the reason the product was still launched without adequate product market fit was no one was speaking to customers. And one of the reasons people don't go and speak to customers in this invention game, especially in academic circles, is because you're opening yourself up to the fear of rejection. Does anybody like my thing? I've been working on this thing for ages. Does anybody want it? Liz uses a thing called the mum test quite a lot. She can explain it better than I can, but basically there's no point asking your mum whether your invention's any good or not, because she'll always say yes. You need to find a bunch of people who'll say your innovation, your invention isn't any good, and this is why. Okay, so innovation isn't invention. It's about commercialization, and it's about asking customers where the product market fit is as we go along. So we launch a product that customers actually want. So if we're going to embark on this journey, why do we need money? Yeah, why can't we just do it ourselves? There's a whole bunch of reasons on that slide. I won't read them out, but basically, innovation rather is an expensive process. It's iterative. The more money you put into it up front, the more questions you ask, the more time you spend, the more customer involvement you get, the more agile prototyping and testing that you do, the closer you're going to get to this elusive product market fit. So we need time, we need money, we need resources to do all those things. Okay, so it can be expensive. If we don't spend enough money on the innovation process, again, we have a tendency to go to market too early with a thing that we like, with a thing that our mum likes, but a thing that perhaps the market isn't quite ready for. We haven't knocked all the edges off it. We haven't worked out exactly where it fits. So that's why we need a chunk of money. And the government are very keen on helping you to do that for reasons that we will come on to. So if you need money to take your innovation to market, who could you get money from? Okay, we'll work through this because there's some pros and cons with all of these. There's a word missing from that first bullet point. Is often referred to as friends, family, and fools. Yeah, the people that are going to hand over money to you to do your innovation and for you to make a new product, a new service, because they like you. Yeah, not that you've got relationships with these people already. They don't really know much about the technology or business, but they know about you. They like you, and they will say, right, okay, well, we trust you. We'll try and help to fund your innovation. So that's where a lot of this starts, is with friends, family, and others. I know a lady that I work with now, a business called Thermify. And Amanda launched this. She bootstrapped it all. She sold her house and she lived in a caravan for 7 years while she was building her business, getting the technology platform ready. And then last year she signed a deal. Her first major customer, the first deal she signed with British Gas, was £4.5 million. But it was a long struggle, and she burnt an awful lot of her own money in that process. And yes, some of her friends and some of her family got involved as well. So that's one place to start. Another place to start is early adopters. Who are going to be your first customers? The way I think about early adopters these are the people that will queue outside the Apple store for a new iPhone. They'll queue out there for a week before it's launched. They'll get tents on the pavement and they'll queue out there because they really want to be the first person to market. So your early adopters can be your customers. They can be not just B2C customers, but B2B customers. They can also be the government. Now, if you think about the Ministry of Defence, they are almost by definition an early adopter. They need technology to solve their immediate problems, to counter their immediate threats. So who can you go to with your innovation who really needs it and is prepared to take a risk, is prepared to go out of their way because they need to be an early adopter? You can get money from business angels. Business angels are generally high net worth individuals. They've got to the end of their career. They want to put something back. Potentially, they want to get some good returns on their on the money they've managed to stockpile over the years. They tend to cluster in groups, in syndicates. There will be a number of them in Norfolk. There are a number of them nationally. They tend to be sectorally organised, and there'll be people in there who understand your market. And they might also have a pretty good black book. They might know a load of people, a load of potential customers. They can facilitate introductions, and they can get you in front of the right people when your product is ready. So angels are not a bad place to go. They're certainly better than the next people on the list, because the venture capitalists, the VCs, are the people that will dragon's den you to death, and they will want the absolute earth in terms of your equity. In return, they won't give you nearly as much money as you thought, and then they will ride you very, very hard. They will be asking for an awful lot of information, an awful lot of reports, even when it's going well. And if it starts to go badly, you will be working very, very hard to keep your VCs on side. So VCs, definitely a source of money. We could do an entire hour on how and when and why to talk to VCs, but just be careful with them is what I'm going to say. I said complete strangers are a great place to get money from. What I meant there was the internet. There's a whole bunch of stuff now happening with crowdfunding, with equity crowdfunding, with crowdfunded loans, with Kickstarter projects, and there's all kinds of platforms out there, Indiegogo, Crowdcube, Kickstarter, where you can put your innovation up on the internet and say, I haven't even built this yet. I've just thought I might do this. And people will fall over themselves to fund you. It doesn't always work. It tends to work better with B2C products, business to consumer products, widgets, things people can buy and use in their daily life. But it does also work with equity and B2B. The Crowdcube website is a great resource. I use it myself. I've advised clients to go and have a look at Crowdcube. So there are people out there that will fund you and they'll never meet you. They'll only ever interact with you through your pitch deck. We might talk about pitch decks a bit later on. The third sector, charities, are increasingly in this innovation space. They're increasingly looking for ways to achieve their charitable needs, charitable aims by harnessing technology. I'm working with a project down here where I live, on the Isle of Wight, and they're trying to get more and more technology into the care home settings to free up labour for more complicated tasks. So getting Alexas into everybody's room, teaching them how to use it and all that kind of stuff. But there are plenty of examples there. There's a lot of charity funded work in another thing that I'm interested in, which is retrofit. So making old houses perform in terms of their energy consumption as well as a new house. And there's plenty of charitable interest in that sector as well. But the people we're going to talk mostly about today that want to fund your invention are the government. And it's important always to realise that there's a reason they're doing this. And the reason the government wants to fund your innovation, help you to bring new products and services to market, is a very simple one. They want you to be successful, and they want your business to grow and expand and pay more tax. It's good for our balance of payments as an economy, but it's very, very good for the Chancellor if he can find a whole bunch of strongly growing businesses that are bringing in millions and millions of pounds, particularly from abroad, because he can tax them. So always bear that in mind when you're speaking to the government, that there is an end goal to what they're trying to achieve. So all these people, we've covered a lot of this. Friends and family will fund you because they like you. Early adopters because they want new things. Angels to help you out, maybe, but certainly to make a return. VCs are only interested in the return. Complete strangers can do it for a whole bunch of motivations because you'll never meet them. You won't really know their motivations. Charities are all about aims, fulfilling their charitable aims, but the government, jobs, wealth, GDP, but some other things as well. So the government is quite often now using innovation as a tool for other policies. So I was recently at an Innovate UK lock-in, which was all about trying to accelerate the uptake of low carbon technologies in people's homes. And it became very clear that the homes they were interested were the fuel poor, the marginalised and the vulnerable. So the technology wasn't so interesting as how you would reach a given sector that the government wanted to support. Obviously, the government's interested in that sort of thing. It's incredibly interested in carbon and innovation as a tool for reducing the UK's carbon emissions and getting ourselves to comply with our greenhouse gas Kyoto commitments is an incredibly powerful tool. Innovate UK's budget in the low carbon arena gets bigger and bigger and bigger every year. So if you're doing something that can help the government raise some money, but also fulfill some of its other targets, you're in a good place. This is the how they'll do it. I won't read through that, but the different ways of getting money out of different people all requires a little bit of thought, okay? Because some of these things are quick and some of these things are slow, and in business, time is money, and you'll find some of your funders move at a very, very different pace to you. So you'll remember we said right at the beginning that we'll tell you some things not to do. And one of the things not to do is to think that I can apply for a grant from the government and that's going to help my cash flow position. I'm going to get some money. I'm in a bit of a sticky situation here, so I'll get a grant from government. No one will tell you in government when you'll get your money. They'll make some vague commitments to you, and it goes to the right far more often than it should. Things get delayed, things take longer, competitions don't get signed off. There's always another bit of due diligence, and all the time your business has to run and you have to pay your people, you have to keep your head afloat. So please never think that applying for innovation grants is a way to ease your cash flow. It's quite the opposite. Okay, so Innovate UK, we're going to talk a bit more about them. Who are Innovate UK? So they're quite a big organisation these days. Last time I checked their budget, they got through about 2.3 billion pounds a year. That's a lot of money. They employ something like 400 people in the field. They employ a head office and probably about the same, probably a bit more. They're based in Swindon. They are an agency. They're part of the United Kingdom Research and Innovation Agency. So they're not core civil service. They don't work out of Whitehall, but they are entirely funded by the Chancellor of the Exchequer from your tax receipts. And it goes out through a government department that used to be called BAYS, was recently reorganised, and now they're funded by the by IST, Innovation, Science and Technology Department. So you pay your taxes, money goes to the Treasury, 2.4 billion goes out to Innovate UK. They're the poor cousins of the research councils. You'll see on that slide a whole bunch of acronyms up there, AHRC, BBSRC. These are the research councils. So these are the people that fund university research grants, and Innovate UK is part of that family, but distinct and separate, and much confusion arises when we bring academia into the picture and we try and collaborate between universities and businesses. In theory, and it doesn't work like this, but in theory, the government funds invention through the research councils at universities, and then it funds innovation, the commercialization of stuff, through Innovate UK. But that line is very, very blurred, and we don't have enough time to get too deep into that, I'm afraid, today. So that's who that's who UKRI are. That's where Innovate UK sit, and the more familiar you are with some of the terminology, some of the acronyms, some of the processes and procedures, the easier your ride will be through this process. It is not an easy thing to learn. It is a complicated and difficult thing. But once you've done it once, once you've done it twice, once you're into the swing of things, it just gets easier and easier. But initially, it looks daunting, it looks unfamiliar, it's full of strange terminology and bureaucracy. And that's because it's government funded. The government is always trying to prove value for money for the taxpayer, and that's really, really hard in this field. So that's, I think I'm talking in front of my slides there. That goes to show you how much money the government is spending on research and innovation. And if you look just above the bold line there, you can see that Innovate UK's budget, and I think that's what they're spending out in terms of core grants rather than staffing and overhead and all that kind of stuff, 970k there in terms of grants, but pretty small beer if we look at the amount of money we're spending on research. Okay, so still the poor cousin. So that's Innovate UK's budget compared to some of the other university bits. And that means that academia gets more money than business does. So wouldn't it be a good idea to go where the money is, to go and find where you can actually find ways to get into this larger ecosystem of funding opportunities. And a relationship with academia is a really good way of thinking about that. So lots of academics working in your field at your local universities who get well funded and have access to other pots of money that you don't. We've got a great example through the IGMP process of a company called iBoxit. John Farley runs that. He's got a great relationship with an academic at East Anglia, and between them they managed to come up with an idea, an innovation that could be commercialised. And I think the number we got out of Innovate UK for that was £1.6 million worth of funding to go ahead and turn that academic research into a product that John's company could sell. So there's a great example there of the benefit of having an academic relationship. They're not always easy. You need to understand what a university is, why it exists, and how it's different to you as a business person. You've got to understand their timescales. You've got to understand their overhead structure. But once you understand some of these things and you meet the right people, you probably won't meet the right people the first time you go and speak to the university, but once you found the right people, they're all trying to do the same thing as you, there can be some great advantage to that. So I'm about to hand over to Liz, but what we're going to do through next is then not what the funding is, but how to go about finding it and winning it. That's what we're going to talk about there. The website, this slide is showing you a thing called the Innovation Hub. Google it, find it. It's relatively new. It's not perfect yet. Indeed, it probably never will be. But this Innovation Hub is supposed to be the one-stop shop for you finding funding opportunities for your business from the government. So it's got grants in there. It's got all of Innovate UK's grants, but it's also got a load of other financial programs and treasury schemes like Innovation Export Finance, UK Trade and Industry, startup loans, the British Business Bank. There's loads and loads of different funding sources all on that one Innovation Hub website. So try and find that and have a quick search around in Google on that, and you might find some useful stuff in there. So that's the one-stop shop. So part of the innovation, this outfit here, are you going to start at this point?
Yes.
Liz, or am I going to talk about KTN?
No, it's fine. I will talk to this. And I've seen a lovely little button that says take control of the presentation. So let's see if I can do the slides. Let's have a try. I'll control the content the presenter is sharing. There we go. Okay. And if you can mute for me, Colm, because I'm getting a bit of an echo. Thank you. So as Colm's described, this is a big and complicated landscape. And at this stage, you might be thinking, blimey, this all sounds a bit too complicated. I haven't got time to find my way through all of this. So the good news is that there's people who can help with that. So obviously in the region you're in, you have access to the Innovation Grant Mentoring Programme, which means that you can apply to Laura and Jeff and they can assign you a mentor, someone like Colm and myself, who understand this landscape inside out and forwards and backwards, and who can therefore help you to navigate it and figure out what would be a good fit for you. So you're in an unusually good position in your region in that you have that opportunity. Interesting, my slide has just gone completely blank. I'm trying to
mute my microphone and I can't do it from that screen.
Okay, it's not showing me anything at the moment, Colm, just a blank thing. Okay, if you want to reshare that while I'm talking about KTN then. So lovely, thank you. So at a UK-wide level, there's this organisation called KTN, that stands for Knowledge Transfer Network. It's part of Innovate UK. So on top of the large numbers of people Colm described earlier, there's this whole other force here. So there's hundreds of people all around the country who organise themselves around different sectors and whose job is to understand who's doing what and to connect you. Okay, so if you need to find, I don't know, a distribution partner, an academic partner for a project, the KTN can help. They are also tasked with knowing inside out what Innovate UK are up to in the different sectors, what their future strategy is going to be in a given sector and where there might be funding arising. So these are very, very useful people. You can subscribe to their newsletters, and you can find your way in to get to know their knowledge transfer advisors. Okay, I think control is still with you, Colm. So if I can have the next slide, please, my friend. Lovely, thank you. So I said Innovate UK, KTN know about the calls that are coming up. Well, there's a huge range of them. There's a web link there, which you'll have when you get the slides afterwards. That's the Innovation Funding Service website, and that allows you to scroll through all of the currently open funding opportunities and to search for ones that are relevant to you. So you can self-serve on this, you can sign up for alerts and that kind of thing. You don't have to rely on someone else at KTN. You can just go onto the Innovation Funding Service and you can set up some searches and see what's available. Where the KTN come in is knowing what's going to be coming next, because IFS only shows you current and previous funding competitions for the most part. Occasionally something will show us upcoming, but only when it's fairly imminent. So things to tell you about in terms of the types of stuff that gets funded. So there's always an ebb and flow in terms of which sectors have got lots of funding competitions coming out and which are a bit quiet. They usually, each sector works on a kind of rhythm. So each sector has a team within Innovate UK, and they'll be planning several years ahead what funding competitions they're going to run. So in a lot of areas, for example, there's something every 6 months or every year, but it'll have a slightly different target each time. And this is where knowing the relevant people at KTN will help you understand what might be coming up. Particularly active areas at the moment, anything around clean growth and energy, there's a lot around that. We've put EDI on the slide. So there's a funding stream for equality, diversity and inclusion at Innovate UK. It started with the Women in Innovation competition, and it's grown and broadened since then. So they've just run a programme called Unlocking Potential, which basically encouraged applications from everybody in all manner of underrepresented groups, by which I mean underrepresented in innovation funding. So it encouraged young people, people from minority ethnic backgrounds, people from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, all sorts of different groups of people were encouraged to put forward an application, and they funded 225 projects, which are starting right about now. Other areas that are active have been for a few years, things like healthy ageing, and there's a couple of specific competitions open at the moment which are particularly relevant to your region. So there's one at the moment that's funded by the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, DCMS. They are running their own competition in an Innovate UK programme called Investor Partnerships. Okay, so Investor Partnerships is a specific stream of funding where Innovate UK have a list of investors who are keen on investing alongside some Innovate UK grant funding. Okay, and you as a business talk to the investor. If they're on board, then you go and put forward a proposal for an innovation project to Innovate UK with the investor providing the match funding. So there's a specific instance of this open at the moment, and it has a regional focus, and your region's one of them. Okay, so that's open at the moment. It's available on the IFS system if you're interested, and the competition closes in January, so you've got a bit of time for that one. The second one that's directly relevant for your region, so this is the weird thing, right? Innovate have this sector focus, but then they do recognise the importance of place as well, and that's my fault because I set up the regional team at Innovate UK. So they do geographically constrained and focused funding as well. So there's another competition open at the moment. It's available on IFS, and it's called a Launchpad, and it's for agri-technology and food technology in Eastern England. So what they're looking for there is, let me find the summary. They're looking for proposals which will move forward agricultural technology, food technology. They're looking for things which will enhance productivity of primary crops, aquaculture, livestock, that kind of thing, biotech, food that promotes healthy, safe and nutritious diets, and resource efficient production methods for low emission foods. So there's some quite specific areas they're looking for in terms of sector. So they've sliced it that way, and then they're slicing it the other way, in that there is a specific geography to that, which is your region. So I just wanted to mention those because they're open now. That one's got quite a short closing date, so if you're interested in that, you need to crack on because it closes on the 6th of December. So you've only got a couple of weeks for that, which means start tomorrow. Okay, so as I say, if you go and look at that this afternoon after this session, there may or may not currently be a relevant competition for you. That's okay. You do sometimes just have to wait. If there isn't something that's right for you right now, talk to the KTN, look at talking to Laura and Jeff about a place on this programme and access to a mentor. And what we do then is we start preparing you to be ready to bid when there is an appropriate competition. So when the right competition comes along, what's involved? So Colm, if you can ping me onto the next slide, please. So the next 3 slides just show you as a summary what's involved in an Innovate UK application. Oh, you stopped sharing.
I've given you control. I don't have control of it anymore, I'm afraid.
No, there's nothing shared now. Can you share again? And let's keep the control with you, because that bit of functionality clearly doesn't work. You're muted. There we go. Thank you. Lovely. Thank you very much. That's the one I just talked about. So if we can ping on from there, and again, lovely. So when do you apply for Innovate UK funding? We're not going to go through this in a ton of detail. There's a separate webinar about writing good funding bids. Okay, so we're not going to give you the whole detail today. There isn't time. But broadly speaking, Innovate are trying to answer 4 fundamental questions. Is there a big enough market that it's worth investing taxpayers' money to help you develop your innovation? Can it be world leading? Have you got it at the right stage of development now for the timing to be right to put some public money in and take this forward? And why should public money be used rather than using your own retained profits or raising money from the private sector, from venture capital or angels or even a bank loan? So those are the 4 fundamental questions they're trying to answer. And what that then leads to is there's a set of standard questions. There are some competitions where it's slightly different, but most of them are like what we're going to show you here. So first of all, there's this section called project details. This example comes from the net zero heat competition that Colm's involved with. Now, these bits aren't scored, but that doesn't mean they're not important. And you'll learn more about that at the Writing Funding Bids webinar, because the first thing that an assessor looks at, the first thing that he or she sees is your project summary. And you want to get them excited about your project and wanting to read more when they read that project summary. So a mistake people sometimes make is because there's no marks to be gained from that section, people don't bother with it. And if you do that, you've missed a brilliant opportunity to really capture the attention and interest of the assessor. The other bit that's very important there that isn't scored is the scope. So Innovate set out on each competition the scope of what they're looking for. It is the first thing that is assessed. So there's no marks, but it's assessed. And if they decide you are out of scope, that's it. They don't look any further. So all the other work you've done is wasted. So it's really important to be certain that you're in scope for the competition and to articulate that clearly. Okay, next one, please, Colm. Thank you. So then you get to the meat of the application. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here that's marked. So there's some specific ones that are additional for that competition around permits and licenses, but the main ones are need and challenge, your approach, team, market, outcomes, and so on. These are all the standard questions. You have a fixed word limit for each of these. It's usually 400, 600 or 800 words, depending on the question and how many points you can score from it. And assessors have a matrix that guides them on how many points to give for different qualities of answer. So fundamentally, what they're looking for, what the assessors are tasked with doing, is answering really 8 questions. Is the project well aligned to the scope of the competition? Is number 1. Is it innovative? So point 4 on there, that question. Is it actually innovative or not? And a lot of people put all their time and effort into describing the innovation. Here's our exciting thing. Here's our brilliant technology. Absolutely do that, but that's only 1 question out of 10, okay? And it's equal marks for all 10. You don't get extra marks for banging on about how exciting your technology is. So it's really important to put equal effort into the other questions, because the other things that they're looking for, is there a strong business case? Is the value proposition credible? And have you got some evidence that people actually want to buy this thing? Back to what Colm was saying earlier. Is your plan for the research and development you're going to do through the project credible? So there's some stuff here on project management. You're expected to provide a solid Gantt chart, for example, a project plan. Have you had a proper look at the risk? Now, it's expected there's going to be a degree of risk in these projects because they're early stage. And if they had no risk in them, then why on earth would we spend taxpayers' money on them? Doesn't make sense. But it's the right degree of risk. And the assessors want to know that you've had a really good think about different types of things that could go wrong and what you're going to do to prevent them happening, if possible, and mitigate them if they do. Really important, the team and the consortium. So question 5. If it's a collaborative project, then have you got the right combinations of organisations and expertise to deliver the project? And if it's a smaller project, which is just you as one company, who have you got within the business or bringing in as a subcontractor that creates a convincing team? It's the same when you seek private sector investment. They're often a lot more interested in the team than in the technology, or at least equally interested. And the other thing is there needs to be a clear need for support. So these 2 questions here, added value and cost and value for money, it's really easy to drop points here because it's, oh, okay, added value, what does that mean? Yes, of course, it's value for money. And people focus on just the costs, filling in the finance tables. There's, again, equal marks awarded for each question. So don't drop marks on this stuff. They want to know what difference taxpayers' money is going to make to your business and its growth, but also to the wider economy and to wider triple bottom line sustainability aims, positive impacts on the environment, on society. So that comes into question 8. So really there's 3 questions there where you're asked to think a bit more broadly and to articulate beyond just this project, what's the value of the government putting taxpayers' money into what you're doing. Okay, next one, please, Colm. Thank you. Then you have to fill in finances, and there's some additional supporting information. I just wanted to point out as well, terms and conditions are non-negotiable. Okay, so look at them before you spend time completing the bid. If you really can't live with them, don't bother applying because they will not negotiate. They fund thousands of projects every year. If they got into negotiating terms and conditions, you'd need another 400 people just to deal with that. The terms and conditions are pretty fair. I've had my own projects. I've both for my own small business and for a bigger organisation I used to work with. They're pretty palatable. So I don't want to scare you off. There's no problem with the terms and conditions, but do have a look beforehand. Don't throw your toys out of the pram once they've awarded you funding about the T's and C's, because you won't get a hearing on that one. It's take it or leave it. Okay, next one, please. I'm conscious of the time, so I'm moving on a bit. So there is a whole load of money out there to be won by businesses like yours for new products and services like yours. Okay, so please do have a look at this. It's a fantastic resource that in a lot of cases is underknown and underapplied for. There are some competitions which are highly competitive. Okay, so again, this is where an innovation grant mentor can help, because we have a fair idea of which ones are ridiculously competitive and which are less so. So your chances of success obviously are better in a less competitive competition. Other things to think about. So some of these competitions will pay 100% of the cost of the project. Brilliant. That's not true for most of them. There are some smaller grants where it's 100% funded. All of the bigger ones and all of the ones where you collaborate with other partners pay a percentage of the project cost. Okay, so you'll need to find the rest. So that might be from retained profit in the business. It might be that you bring in some investment alongside, but you need to be aware that for a lot of this funding, they're not paying the whole lot. You need to find some of the money. The second thing to think about is cash flow. Colm mentioned that earlier, that this is not a sticking plaster if you've got cash flow issues. The reason for that is that when a project is funded, start project day one. For most types of funding, you run the project for 3 months. That means you're paying staff costs, you're paying for materials, whatever else you're spending money out on. At the end of 3 months, that's the end of your first quarter. You then have a meeting with a monitoring officer, and I'll mention that in a minute, and you put in a claim to Innovate UK for them to refund the money you have spent. Okay, so you've been spending for 3 months, then you submit a claim, and then there is an amount of time associated with processing that claim. Call it a month for the sake of easy numbers. So 4 months from when you started spending to when you get that money reimbursed, you have to be able to cash flow that. Okay, so as part of the due diligence during project setup, they will ask you for some financial information so they can be confident that you can do that. There's various eligibility criteria. Be careful about those. It's all set out on the Innovation Funding Service under each competition, so have a look at that. And there's, excuse me, there's a guidance document on eligible costs for non-academic organisations that sets out clearly what you can and can't claim for. Subcontractors, some competitions have a specific proportion of the total costs which can be used for subcontractors, but no higher. So a lot of competitions will say no more than 25%, for example, can be spent on subcontractors. Others leave it vague. 25% is not a bad rule of thumb. There are certain competitions where they recognise that the necessary skills probably sit outside of an SME, and therefore you can subcontract more, but always have a look through all of the detail on IFS, basically, because these little details are in there. When a project's funded, you go through a setup process with some additional due diligence, and then it goes live and a monitoring officer is appointed. Colm and I both act as monitoring officers, so we know that process inside out. What that means is you have a kick-off meeting with someone like us, you send us some additional documentation so we can really get a handle on your project, what your deliverables and milestones are, what you're trying to achieve and by when. And then you have a meeting with us every quarter, every 3 months usually, where we check in with you on how it's going. You tell us what's gone well, what's gone badly, what's changed. We report that into Innovate UK, so they've always got an overview of how all the projects in their portfolio are going. And if there's something that you need to change, if the project's shifted from what was funded, then we talk with you about a process called project change requests. And if we're supportive of the change you want to make, then we will help you shepherd that through the Innovate UK system. And the other thing to think about, there's a thing called independent accountant reports, which have to accompany some of your claims. How many of those you have to do depends on how big your grant is. So again, it's stuff that's in the detail, but you need to make sure you've included that in your costing and planning when you put together your project. Okay, next one, please, Colm. So just a further couple of notes on the costs. So Innovate funds anything from 40% to 100% of costs. And cost is an important word, not profit. So one of the key exclusions, one of the things that's not eligible is dividend. Okay, so if you're running a small business as a director, you may well be paying yourself a very small salary and then take the rest as dividend to save yourself a bit of national insurance. When it comes to an Innovate UK claim, you can only claim an hourly rate that's justified by your PAYE, okay, not your dividend. So just be aware of that. If you're claiming labour costs for people in the business, it's on their PAYE, but it is their entire costs, okay? So it's their salary, it's all of the employer's pension contributions and employer's national insurance, that's all eligible. You can claim for overheads. There's a fixed rate, 20% of your labour costs that you can claim without having to do any maths or provide any evidence. If your genuine overheads are way higher than that, there is a process by which you can set out your actual real overheads, but that's a chunk of work. And I generally advise companies, if you can stomach it, just take the 20% on top of your labour costs as a contribution from the government. You can claim for the materials that you use in your projects, and as I said earlier, for subcontractors, as long as you're not spending the whole budget on that. And if you've got some capital equipment that you're going to use for the project, for example, I don't know, 3 people are going to be working on the project full time, you bought them all a laptop, you can claim for the use of the laptop. You can claim for the use of, I don't know, an autoclave, and it's in proportion to how much of its time is used on the project, and it's for the months it's used on the project. But you can claim some of that back, so that all helps as well. That plus the 20% overhead all helps to improve the amount of money you can get out of the grant, and obviously things like travel and subsistence as well. Next one, please, Colm. So applying takes a while. All right, again, there's much more detail in this on the subsequent webinars that you'll have access to. At least a week, at least. I'll emphasize again, at least. If it's a small project and you've done it before, you might be able to crank out a good bid in a few days. Colm and I probably can. If it's a bigger bid, it'll take even us longer than that. And if you've never done it before, double the amount of time, because you'll need to seek some guidance and have other people give it a look over, give you feedback, and iterate it a few times. If you've got lots of partners, that adds time as well, because you've got all of those things. You send them a draft, you ask them to reply by Thursday, and they don't get around to it. So that always adds extra time into the process. Speaking of time, I think we'll move on to the next slide. And this is the last one I'm going to talk to before we come to Colm. So there is a programme called SMART. It is always open. It's always available. It will fund you as a single company, whereas some of the competitions are collaboration only. So it's open to all sector areas, to all geographies, and it basically never closes. So it's very, very appealing. However, be wary. The success rate is really low. So the things we've been talking about up till now, success rate can be as high as 1 in 4, 25%, although it varies a lot. SMART, less than 10% at the moment, it's about 4%. And that's purely because it's very, very, very oversubscribed. So your application has to score ridiculously highly to succeed. So it's there, but take advice before you apply for it. Don't just pile in thinking, oh, brilliant, this one's a fit, I won't worry about the targeted calls, because SMART does come with its own challenges. Okay, I think it's over to you for the next ones, Colm.
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing and then share again, because that way I get the control and everything correct. There we go. Fantastic. Everyone see that okay? Great. So, why should you be applying to these sorts of things? Well, obviously the money, fund your own R&D, that's the most important bit. Help to create new products and services. It's easy to think Innovate UK's funding in terms of widgets and hardware, but it's a much, much broader platform than that. There are loads of things out there that are all about software, about process design, about user interfaces, all kinds of stuff. It doesn't need to be a hardware thing. There's not a bad thing to have an Innovate UK logo on your website, supported by the government. It's not just me telling you my product is good, it's the government is saying it was good enough to give us some money. And you will meet a lot of people in this journey. Yeah, you're going to go to some Innovate UK events, you're going to go to some KTN events, you're going to meet an awful lot of people and build up some new partners, and you might even meet some customers, you never know. But don't apply because you need the money. I cannot stress it enough. We've said it over and over again. Don't do that. Okay, there are plenty of other ways of getting money to cash flow your business. Innovation funding is not one of them. We're rattling through the slides because we are post time, so apologies for the speed. You can get ready in advance of the competition. You need to shape your ideas so they're going to fit. You need to have the right partners all ready to go. You need to have your project plan sort of thought through. What am I going to do and what order am I going to do it in? Your risk register, it's an easy way to lose marks. It is important, so get thinking about that. Get all your project team CVs and everything like that together. Get all your admin done in advance of that project even coming out. Oh, and that's it. Well done. We've got to the end of it and we're nearly on time. How's that? So what I'm going to do then is stop sharing, if I can find the right button for that. I've got so many teams. I'm really not a big fan of Teams, I have to say. I think I've explained that before. Right. Am I looking at your screen now, Laura?
Yeah, fantastic.
Got it.
Thanks.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I will stop talking. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Colm and Liz. It's been really insightful. I think ever so really helpful for all those businesses out there that are wanting to understand more around innovation funding. I think whether you've not entered into the area of innovation funding before, or if you've perhaps connected before but want to know some more information, or maybe even applied before and not had success, I think what the insight you've given us today has been really helpful and will help all businesses in those areas. My name's Laura Hill, and I'm the project manager of the Innovation Grant Mentoring Project at Norfolk County Council. This project is funded by Norfolk and Suffolk County Councils to support innovative businesses in the region towards innovation funding. So after what you've heard today from Colm and Liz, if you're interested in progressing towards innovation funding, please get in touch. And I'm going to sort of talk about the project we run and the support that we could potentially provide to your business. We provide webinars on innovation funding like today as well. So and we're also running workshops next year. So I'll talk to you about those as well. So you'll have heard obviously from Colm and Liz about innovation funding and what it is. It's a researching and developing a new product, process or service. And this project, which I run with a team at Norfolk County Council, supports businesses applying for those funds from funding streams such as Innovate UK, which is the public largest public funder of innovation in the country. These grants go towards supporting innovative projects, and as we've heard today, they can range from thousands to millions of pounds, and it enables businesses to accelerate their innovation and therefore their route to market. These bids, aren't competitive. They're not are really competitive, and they're not easy. So we're here as a project to help and support you through that process, and also increase awareness around sort of how you might sort of move towards innovation funding. So in terms of the project and what we actually offer, we offer fully funded one-to-one mentoring and bid writing coaching from our team of experts. They've been successful in winning innovation funding as well as writing bids and know what it takes to achieve a grant. As you'll have seen from our presenters today, they're extremely have a fantastic expertise in the field of innovation funding, and it's with the likes of Liz and Colm that we would connect you with through the project. The mentoring support we offer, along with in-depth training on how to analyse and write successful applications, will not only assist you with that particular application or project you're working towards, but the idea of the project is that we're now giving you the skills to complete future grant applications as well within the business. And the support we provide is really flexible. We can work with you from whatever stage you're at now towards innovation funding success. So if you're not quite ready to apply for innovation funding but have a fantastic idea, we can support you with our early stage concept support as well, which we've brought into the project. And that can lead to then go on to funding to support towards innovation funding assistance. So we have various different streams of support on the project. And if you connect with us, we can talk you through the support streams and what might be most relevant for where you're at the moment in terms of innovation funding. So in terms of eligibility, we'd be pleased to hear from any business based within Suffolk or Norfolk, from any industry sector, whether you're aspiring to start innovating or already have that innovation proposal altogether, and you're ready to go and you've seen a call you want to apply for, we'd be really pleased to hear from you. So please connect with us. Also, if you've tried grant funding recently and not been successful, it's a very competitive process, and we've got ways to support you towards success in the future. So please get in touch. Now going to talk briefly about a few businesses that we've supported towards success. I know that this business has already been mentioned within the main presentation, but just to give you an idea about how we supported this business towards a successful grant. So iBoxit, based in Norwich, they are a startup business on the Norwich Research Park working in food shipping solutions. They registered to the Innovation Grant Mentoring Project and applied for our one-to-one support. They are approved for fully funded innovation mentoring and bid writing coaching assistance from our team. And we match them to one of our expert mentors, and also our bid writing coach, to a bid writing coach. And we supported the business on a bid into Innovate UK. This is another grant which we supported them towards, and it was to develop their innovative, environmentally friendly shipping solution for the food industry. So we supported them looking at the bid and checking the scope of the fund to ensure it fitted to the competition, and also further develop their proposal for that particular call. And then we brought in a bid writing coach to work with the business to ensure that the best possible application was submitted. This was their first bid into Innovate UK, and the support which we provided through our experts really gave them the confidence to apply into the call. And they ended up winning a grant of £850,000 to help develop an environmentally friendly shipping solution. They've now started work on the project, and this is going to go on for the next couple of years. And it's fantastic to be able to connect and work with businesses in the region on such a wide range of innovations and assist in applications and give them the support to get their bid over the line to hopefully achieve success. So there's just a nice quote there from John over at iBoxit about the project and the support. So it's great to work with businesses such as iBoxit. Next, I'm going to share with you a very short video on a business called Canopy. And this is another business which we've worked with on the project. And they'll give you a bit of insight into the project and the support and how we worked with them towards funding calls.
Hello. Hello. My name is Hugo Douglas-Dean. I'm co-founder of Canopy, and I'm also the Chief Marketing Officer.
I'm Thomas Panton. I'm the founder and CEO of Canopy. Canopy.com is all about the buy better messaging. Our whole mission is to make it easier for consumers to understand what a better product is, a better impact product is, and then come and find one central place to buy that product. And on the flip side of that, it's about allowing businesses to relay their green claims in a really transparent and compliant way. We really wanted to just make that whole process much easier to decarbonise the industry, but also just make it easier for consumers to make sort of sustainable living just living.
So as a Norwich-based business based at the Enterprise Centre at UEA, we knew about the Innovation Grant Mentoring Project, so totally made sense to apply as we're looking at Innovate UK funding for the project. IGMP really helped us submit a bid, and that was a really great process to allow us to really shape exactly what the project was that we're applying for. Some really great support through the scheme. We had a mentor and also a bid writing coach. We always looked at Innovate UK as a really fantastic kind of way of getting not only the money, we would like to sort of develop the product, but also the validation and the sort of the prestige of Innovate UK. Looking at IGMP was like a fantastic opportunity to really sort of shape our bid and our call and really like identify all the things that make it really unique and really, really attractive for Innovate UK funding.
One of the things that sort of tags along with that is finding where the value is. They really want to know how you're going to commercialise that. When you come back to the basics, well, where's the real value at? You know, what is the bit that's going to make people go, this is a really exciting project, but also this is something which is going to really help the local economy and the wider global economy as well. When we go and speak to investors and we get asked about commercialisation, it's very, very clear in our heads now because we've written that all out in a really structured, really good storytelling way. Yeah, it's exciting. I would definitely recommend the Innovation Grant Mentoring Project. It's been really helpful to us, not just for now, but for future development plans as well. So highly recommended.
So I hope those two examples of how we've worked with businesses on the project has given you some insight, and perhaps you might be interested in innovation funding, and if so, please would like, please get in contact. Our webpage for further details for support on this programme, and also the email address are on the slide here. So yeah, please get in contact. There are a number of funds from Innovate UK open to businesses in Norfolk and Suffolk at the moment. I know Colm and Liz mentioned a couple of them. So we've got the Launchpad Agritech Food Tech Fund, and also the Create Growth funds. And so if you're considering those, or if you have perhaps considering another fund, please let us know. We're quite happy to help you work towards finding the right call. So even if you haven't found the fund to apply for, we can support you through that process. The dates to the close of those two competitions I mentioned are coming up quite quickly. So if that's something you are considering, please let us know as soon as possible. But thank you for listening. We're now getting to the point where we're going to take questions from the Q&A. And if you could add any further questions you have into that Q&A section, whether they're for Liz, Colm, or myself on the Innovation Grant Mentoring Project, please add them to the Q&A. And right, so we'll now start taking some questions. I'll pass over to Jeff, who's going to guide us through those questions.
Okay, thank you. So we just had the one question at the moment. So yeah, please do feel free to add some more questions as we're talking and answering through these. So the question is, to either Colm or Liz, is there an advantage when applying for innovation grants to include a university who would be awarded the lion's share of the grant, thus keeping the money in the UK research cycle, whereas an external company, possibly outside the UK, could be significantly cheaper?
Okay, I'll take that one. So there's a few things to unpack in that question. So thank you very much for that one, Anne. It's a helpful prompt. Short answer is no. I'll say that up front. So Innovate UK, as distinct from the research councils, want to fund businesses. So they're very pleased to see collaboration between universities and businesses, but they always want the projects to be business-led. So they do get a little bit nervous if they see a bid coming in, let's say it's for £1 million, to keep the numbers easy, and the company's only asking for 50 grand and the rest's going to a university. They start to wonder if it's actually a university project and they're using the company as a front to get the money. I'm putting that in a very blunt kind of way. It's not quite that bad, but they really want to see businesses taking the lead and reaping the benefits of innovation. So I don't think you need to worry about that. What they're looking for is the right partners to deliver. And if there's a company in the UK that can provide, say lab testing services or something like that, they'd be very happy to see them as part of the consortium. Where they might be a little bit nervous, if it is something like testing services, normally you do that on a subcontract basis. And that means the lab gets paid 100% of their costs. If they're a partner in a project, they don't get 100%, so they might not be willing to do that. So there's always a discussion to be had about who's a partner and who's a subcontractor. When it's a university, it's straightforward, they're a partner, and actually universities get all of their costs covered. I won't bore you with the details of full economic costing. So it is a thing to think about. Outside the UK is another interesting point. Generally speaking, Innovate UK really want to see the money being spent in the UK. This is UK taxpayers' money after all, so they don't really want to see it all going to a third country. So when it comes to subcontractors in particular, they keep a pretty keen eye on where are those subcontractors based. They expect you to make a very strong case if you want to use a subcontractor outside the UK, and it's cheaper is not considered a good enough case, believe it or not. So yeah, it's a question where the answer is quite complex. Don't feel that you have to bring universities in to please Innovate UK. Form the consortium that's right for you, right for your project. But yeah, money in the UK is definitely a thing for Innovate UK. Colm, do you want to add anything to that?
There are some specific countries that are excluded for defence and security reasons. So yeah, you can't. You don't have a free rein to select your subcontractors for anywhere you want. There are some rules around that.
Fantastic, thank you. So I've got some more questions come through, again with the university side of things. So does it matter where the university is? So if, for example, a company is based in Suffolk, could they collab with a northern university?
Yep, that's fine. Collaborate with universities wherever you like. There's a second element of that question about KTP. So KTPs are a specific type of innovation funding. And your KTP advisor should be local to you as the business, as a general rule, I think. But yeah, it's fine to collaborate with the right university for you, irrespective of geography.
Fantastic, thank you. This is probably one for you, Laura. At what stage of the innovation idea would we need to be at before we can approach for mentoring? Initial concepts or a completed business plan?
If you have a concept and you think it fits in with what we've spoken about today, absolutely, please get in touch and we'd be happy to talk it through with you and work out whether you're at the right stage now for our project support. We've got several streams of support. So we have early stage mentoring and also core stage mentoring. The early stage is really for those businesses that perhaps haven't applied for Innovate UK funds before, and they've got a basic concept which needs working up to help to go towards innovation funding. We can support you with a mentor to help pull together a summary of your innovation for a Innovate UK application, for example. And or if you're at the point where you've got you're further down the line, keen to apply for a call, we'll put you into the core stage of mentoring. So we can support a business to whatever stage they're at.
Fantastic, thank you. And we have a question, can charities apply for funding?
I'll take that if you like. So the answer always used to be an absolutely good solid no. And now that's changed. So Innovate UK are funding all kinds of things now with local authorities, with third sector, with charities and all that kind of stuff. But it'll be competition by competition. Okay, so simple answer is yes, but not for everything, for some things and not for other things. So it's all down to the detail in the competition. The very first tab on the competition page is eligibility. When you go into the eligibility section, it'll tell you if in that particular competition, charities will be eligible.
I've just posted a link in response to Jenny's comment that has the detailed funding rules for UKRI. So there is stuff in there about it, Jenny. It's not clear cut, as Colm says, it does depend, but the eligibility rules are in that link.
Fantastic, thank you.
Sorry, Jeff, can I just add in, like if I can just add in around the Innovation Grant Mentoring Project and our support with working with charities. We can support limited businesses, sole traders, and also CICs. So yeah, we cover a nice spectrum there for support towards innovation funding.
Thanks, Laura. Could you go through what the timing of grants might look like? I can imagine the need to find 3 or 4 months costs and then reclaim might be an issue for some businesses.
Okay, do you want me to go on that one, Colm?
Yeah, if you like. Yep.
So it depends on the grant, John. There are a small number of small grants where you get cash up front. So unlocking potential and a few of the other small grants, never more than 50k in total, do give upfront funding, and they're 100% funded as well. For everything else, it's paid quarterly in arrears. So if you think you apply for a grant and the project probably starts 5 or 6 months after you applied, so there's a lead in time there. So these grants are not the thing to go for the new product or service that you need to bring to market a month from now. They're for the thing that's on your development pipeline that you want to be launching in a year or 2 years or 3 years. Okay, this isn't immediate fast turnaround stuff. So say 5 or 6 months from application to starting the project, you kick off the project, and as I said earlier, you're working for 3 months, you're spending money, then you put a claim in, about a month to be paid. So yeah, probably 4 months where you're spending money before anything comes in.
I would add to that I've seen a number of people get it slightly adrift on the getting paid bit. So you finish your quarter, you submit your claim, and Innovate UK will probably pay you within 4 weeks of the claim being approved. Now, putting your claim in and having it approved are not the same thing. Okay, so I've seen claims that have been delayed by days, months, weeks, months even, because the company hasn't evidenced what it needed to claim back to Innovate UK in a way that Innovate were happy with. Good examples: missing receipts, exchange rates on foreign transactions, people claiming the wrong bit of money from the wrong bit of their grant, so claiming labour from subcontracting or subcontracting from materials or something like that. And then in a small business, big chunks of money being adrift by a week or 2 weeks or a month can make all the difference. So yeah, get your claim process right, have a good relationship with your monitoring officer.
Thank you. And there's also a second question from John. Is they're asking whether we work alongside the Norwich Research Park.
I'll take that one. So the Norwich Research Park, we have links with them, and we can connect you with people in that organisation if that's something we need to do. But so let's get in contact and we can discuss how we can support you further with that.
Fantastic. I think that's all of the questions that we have for the moment.
That's fantastic. Thanks ever so much, Jeff, for leading the questions. If anybody has any final questions, there's one more coming through.
I think it was just a thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, John, for that. So I hope everyone's found the session today really helpful, and please look out for details being published soon on our next innovation funding webinar event. We're also going to be running workshops in 2024 around innovation funding. So we'll let you know about those sessions when we have the dates firmed up. As we've said, if you're interested in discussing your area of innovation and potential for support, fully funded support from the Innovation Grant Mentoring Project, please get in touch with myself or Jeff, and we'll be happy to discuss that with you further. Thanks ever so much for your time, and thank you for listening.